Welcome back, everyone, to the Abundance Formula podcast. Um, Man, if you listened to last week's episode, it was pretty crazy. I was telling you guys how Sailor came down sick and had been throwing up Wednesday morning really early for a long time. And I recorded that podcast episode sometime Thursday morning. And within a matter of hours, then I went down in the same fashion and was throwing up for hours as well. And then it proceeded to, of course, go through the rest of the entire family. Kellen made it a couple days before then he went down. And then, of course, Malia literally made it to like Sunday night, right before the work week. And then she went down. So for like the last 7 days, we've just all been in, throwing up, doing laundry, cleaning it up again, back and forth, helping each other. So it was just such a relief this week to finally Monday. Nobody threw up Monday, which was just such a blessing. It's so funny when you get so knee deep in a stomach bug. You've just never been more grateful to wake up and everyone around you be good. Even if they are not the most high energy, like it's just, is everybody good? Everybody's stomach's okay. It's just amazing how grateful you are to keep your food down, that your family members can keep their food down, and just for general health. I mean, by the time I finally got to go back to work at my practitioner job Wednesday, was never more excited to get out of the house and go to work. um, Tuesday was fun. Tuesday was my birthday, and of course, people still were kind of leery to be around us, which I totally got. So we didn't get together with family or anything, but I took the girls and we went just and shopped out on the town. And Malia really wanted to do a spa day at the house. And so we got some little cheap spa masks and some little ice packs for our eyes and things like that. And we had bath bombs. And so we did a little spa day at home. So that was really fun and had a yummy dinner. So we're going to get together with family this weekend to do an actual just kind of family get together. But so I'm just so grateful to be healthy today. And I mean, when I recorded that podcast Thursday, I knew I didn't feel great. Figured it was probably imminent. Was glad I was able to, get that podcast in before. But it's just nice to feel so good and healthy this morning for you all. So thanks for bearing with us last week, even though my energy wasn't the highest. But this week, I'm really excited about today's topic. I actually heard this quote recently on someone else's podcast. They were talking about school and things like that with their kids, but I loved this quote that they started talking and having a discussion about. And it just led me in a whole other direction. And I loved it. So I wanted to present it to you guys today, some food for thought. And I want to speak to two different groups after I read this quote. So I'm probably going to butcher the person who said this quote's last name, but his name is Alexander Den Heur. I'm going to say it's Heur, but it's Heijer. So however you think that's said, Alexander Den Heur. And he says, when a flower doesn't bloom, you fix the environment in which it grows, not the flower. So I'm going to read it one more time. When a flower doesn't bloom, you fix the environment in which it grows, not the flower. And anyone out there who's listening, who's a gardener, you don't have to be an advanced gardener to know that when something isn't growing, you're typically not looking at the seed as the problem, but you're looking at the soil. What's wrong with the ground in which I tried to plant this thing? Was it too dry? Did I plant it in direct sunlight all day? Did I look into the details about this seed? Did it need more? Did it need more sun? Did it need less sun? Was it actually an indoor plant? Did it need sun through the window, not actually direct sun? There's so many details about seeds, whether they're flowers or they're vegetables, as to what they need in order to thrive. So typically as a gardener, if something's not growing properly, your first instinct isn't to say something is wrong with this seed. This seed is not what I want it to be, and try to change the seed. You're looking at the soil or the environment in which you're trying to make this thing thrive, and you're trying to pivot that in order you're customizing that to the flower or to the seed. So here's the two groups I want to talk to in regards to this quote. I want to talk to those of you out there who are listening, who are leaders, who are, whether you're new leaders, you're seasoned leaders, or your mentors, or your coaches, or your parents. Okay, so anywhere in that, you are teaching. You got some flowers under your care right now that you're trying to garden. And so the first thing that I want you guys to start considering is to check in with yourself. And number one, make sure that you're not accidentally trying to change the flower in which you're trying to grow. And look at maybe if there's an adjustment needed to how you're trying to nurture this flower to thrive, and that you're doing so in a way that it can thrive as it has always been meant to be, that you're not trying to change the flower. It's very, very easy for us to to do that. And I think that's what happens to a lot of us as we go through childhood. Starts in childhood, and we end up as adults trying to re-find ourselves. And as a parent now, I can tell you, I fully understand it is so hard. You don't There's no rule book, there's no playbook for being a parent at all. So you don't know what you're doing. You're truly doing your best, and we all have our own natural tendencies and personalities, and so all we can do is live from our own self and do our best to teach and guide and parent our children who could be completely different flowers than us. And so, like for me, for example, Malia is a totally different flower than I am. And so I really every single day have to catch myself and check in with myself when she's doing something that, especially if it's not something that's a very clear right or wrong, like don't run out in front of the road. Right. There's things obviously that are basic principles that are what they are. But then there's things of ways she might want to do something or get a particular task done that I wouldn't do it that way, or just things that she does that maybe say annoy me, but they're not wrong things. It's just stuff she's doing. It's who she is. It's if maybe she's being louder than I would be. Maybe she's, dressing a way that I wouldn't dress. But it's who she is. And I have to constantly keep myself in check to not make her be me, or make her not have to learn things the way I would learn them, or implement a task the way I would do it, because how she's doing it isn't wrong and it comes naturally to her. And I have to constantly try to let her be the flower she is. And she's very high spirited. She is very fiery. And there's so much that's so good about that. I'm not fiery. I don't typically push the boundaries of the rules. I'm not typically you know what I mean? Get to the very precipice and find out how far I can push things. But that is her. And so I have to constantly, again, not treat that. I have to look through this lens of that is not a negative thing about her. You do have to, keep it within a safety bounds for certain things, right? Say the road, for example. But I really try, though, to let her be that, because that is actually a strength for her. It's very easy, and especially in school settings, it's very easy to treat all these flowers in front of you as if they're mostly the same. And then the flowers that are wild and spirited and have a hard time staying still or focusing or loud, and they can be seen as the negative distractors of the class. And they're not doing well. And to tell their parents, man, they're just really struggling. But we need to, as teachers and mentors and those who are leading, that's not the truth. That is not the truth of the matter. We have so many different flowers in front of us, and the problem is the box, right? So for that kid example, for the school example, the kid who's wild and free and energetic and just, struggles to stay still, that has so much strength out there in the world, in the real world, and in learning and in knowledge and smarts. And so, but the problem's the environment. You put that kind of flower within four walls and tell them to sit there for all these hours and learn in one particular way, then in that environment, that looks like a downside. That looks like their weakness. But you get them in an outside school, you get them outside in the real world, and they become the leaders. So I just want to, with this quote, number one, for you out there as leaders, as parents, as mentors, as teachers, to look at those you're mentoring and gardening in your life, and take a step back to say, have I been accidentally trying to make this particular seed, this particular flower, something it's not? And how can I adjust how I'm teaching, mentoring, and leading to actually be to that flower so that that flower can thrive? Another thing we sometimes accidentally do is we try to make, Like we try to force one flower into another type of flower's soil, and that's not going to work. So again, that goes back to the teaching methods. I'm at my practitioner job, I'm the director of our residency program, and so I have a resident with me. So I'm teaching a resident, and it's been such a great learning experience for me and so much growth as a leader because he actually is not like me at all. And so that's been very interesting because there's so many times, like as I'm teaching and working with him with patients, like I said, there's standards of practice, right? There's medically things he needs to do a certain way. But besides that, I have to let him be him. So he doesn't do the practitioner spiel the way that I would. He doesn't interact with patients in the same fashion or the same way that I might. And I have to just let him do that. It's in no way wrong. It's in every way totally great and totally fine. It's just completely different from me, or the order of which he might want to do some things is not how I would do them. But I've got to let him do it. He's not the flower he is an amazing, awesome flower. And I've got to let him take the knowledge that we need in this profession and bloom that into what he's created to be and the type of practitioner he's going to be. And so I've had to learn to also, he didn't in the beginning. I was trying to teach things how, say, I might would understand them as far as the conceptual stuff, the medical knowledge, right? The thought processes of how to problem solve through something. And it wasn't sticking. And I had to catch myself to say, it's not that the student isn't getting it, because that's what's really easy to do as the teacher. "Ugh, they're just not getting it," and to point the finger away from yourself. But if you are the leader, you have got to reflect back to you and say, okay, if they aren't getting it, what do I need to do better? And so I looked at myself and I was like, okay, I am not using the right communication method. I kind of took it back to my roots where my dad does all these personality tests with Myers-Briggs. Okay, so I asked him, he actually knew what his Myers-Briggs was, and I knew what mine was. So when I knew what he was, I was like, okay, I know how to talk to you now. It is a different language, and I have to curtail my language to him so it sticks. And then it did stick and it worked, right? So that was a learning process for me, because because we surround ourselves oftentimes with people that are like us, and because it's easy because then you don't have to change things about yourself. But real growth and real stepping up in leadership is when you are surrounded by people that are different than you, which is so up leveling. We need so much of that. But it makes you have to point the finger back at yourself to say, what can I change about this teaching environment? How can I change my teaching style? How do I talk differently? What strategies can I use that helps this person's learning process so that it sticks? And sure enough, that worked. And we got a flow going. So it would not have worked, though, if I was determined for him to have to be a resident that was a Jeana flower, and continued to force teaching how I would have heard and digested and memorized and how things would have stuck for me. I would have just been forcing a flower into the wrong soil, a soil that wasn't for that flower. Going back to kind of the whole gardening thing, there are plants that can be planted together and they thrive together, and there's some plants that they call bad neighbors. You can't put them in the same soil. And when they're planted near each other, they require vastly different conditions, and so they both actually can end up suffering. So it's important as leaders, as gardeners, to not just look at the pictures. A lot of people that are new gardeners just look at what flowers look pretty and put them together, but don't look a little deeper. So don't be that kind of leader. And just another example, going with the whole flower thing, and I might butcher the second flower's name, but just one example of this is, the butterfly weed loves sun and dry soil, while impatiens crave moisture. So don't fall into this trap as a leader, as a mentor, and as a parent, that thinking all soil is the same, that all environments should work for everybody. And you're going to have to look at the collective whole. What flower am I working with? And you may not know what flower you're working with at first, say, for example. And you have to then try things. You just have to try things, and but it starts with knowing. It starts with this great learning concept of, okay, instead of looking at the seed as the problem, what's wrong with the soil? How can I adjust the contents of the soil to make the seed bloom into what it's always meant to be? And it's not the weakness, it's the soil, it's the environment. So that's the first group that I wanted to speak to. The second group I want to speak to are the flowers out there, the flowers that are listening. And I just want you to know, like, if you've been feeling stuck, if you have been questioning that calling on your heart, you just don't feel like, you just feel wrong, Maybe you've been told that since childhood. Maybe you've been that kid that could never, quote, do things right. I want you to consider, though, what if the dream wasn't the problem? What if that calling, those crazy ideas you have, the high energy you have, or the introvertedness you have, or whatever, the shyness, whatever that thing is that comes to mind for you right now, what if that's not the problem? It's just your environment. What if the friend group you've surrounded yourself with is the inappropriate soil? What if they're not giving you the moisture you need to foster that seed inside you, to foster that dream? What if you don't have the right mentors that you're sharing your dreams with? Maybe you need a different group. Maybe you just got to change up the environment. Maybe your career isn't fostering what you're called to be. Whatever it may be, you guys, it's the same thing on the flip side. So as the flower, on your end of what you can be accountable for, what environments are you in? Because luckily as humans, unlike plants, we can choose. That's the thing. So unlike plants, they're just put in the ground. But we as humans can recognize, okay, I have these callings on my heart. This is who I naturally am. They're strengths. I'm not the wrong flower. I'm in the wrong environment. I'm with the wrong people. I'm on the wrong career path. I'm in the wrong place. How can I shift? How can I move so that I can plant myself in a place that's actually fostering who I was meant to be, or fostering the next level of who I'm called to be, of where I'm supposed to bloom into life? So take a look at that for yourself, and also take a look at what then you are also putting into your own soil. You're also your own gardener as far as real life goes. So what are you putting into your own soil right now? What are you putting into your mind? What kind of things are you allowing into your heart? Whose opinions do you let matter to you? What are you putting into your body? Really take some time to check on what you're putting into your own soil, because that will matter as well. It's one thing, the external environment that you place yourself in, but then it's also a matter of what you're putting into you. Are the things you're putting into your soil compatible with where you're meant to go, with where you want to go, with where you are going, with what you're supposed to bloom into? And if the answer is no, then you need to change some things. You got to change it up. So again, whether that's the content that you're watching, that you're reading, or if you're not doing any of that, are you doing things? Are you giving yourself nutrients to grow? So check in with that, flowers, and see on your end what things you can do to enhance the health of who you were called to be, and stop fighting who you are called to be. It sometimes takes some healing, because again, a lot of this starts in childhood, because again, as leaders and mentors, it is so easy to think the flower is the problem, to think the seed is the problem, and so many people do that. So then as we grow up into flowers, we've not bloomed in what we were supposed to be. We've kind of bloomed-ish, but not really how we are supposed to be. And so we're kind of always feeling like we're problem solving. Who are we? What are we supposed to do? And so now I want to say, like, what if you just changed the lens and thought, okay, I'm not the problem. My crazy ideas aren't the problem. My dreams aren't the problem. Who I am is not the problem. And so then run with that. Treat them as your strengths now instead of your weaknesses, and see what happens in your life. And then the part two for the flowers is similar to the leaders. Don't try to curtail your dream or who you are. Change yourself. Don't try to be a different flower, and don't try to plant yourself on purpose into the wrong soil, because that won't work. That will be frustrating. So maybe if you're looking at your life right now and you're like, man, I am in the wrong environment, and it's because I'm trying to be a different flower. So if that's you, surrender that. You're not fulfilled right now if that's you. I know that because I've done that before. Tried to be, curtail the type of person that I was to be what I thought I should be, or to fit in with the group I thought I should be, or who I wanted to be, or who other people wanted to be me to be. And you're just not whole, and you won't fully bloom. And that will frustrate the heck out of you, because you will know in your soul you are in the wrong place. So surrender that. And just hold on to this analogy that, like, if you're the seed and it's in the wrong soil, if you're the what plant did I say it was? Not the if you're the impatient and you need moisture, stop trying to be in the dry soil. It's not for you. It's not for you. And that's okay. We need all the flowers. How boring is a garden that has literally all the same flowers? Have y'all thought about that? Like you look at a flower garden, what makes it pretty, what makes it gorgeous is the variety, the different heights, the different kinds. There's ones that are all the fancy roses, and there's the wildflowers that are gorgeous. And when the ones are, when they're all together, you see them all on a canvas. That's what makes it beautiful, not for them all to be the same. So roll with the flower you are. Know that the world needs that variety. We need that, all those aspects of you that maybe you thought were bad things because in your childhood you were in the wrong box, you were in the wrong four walls, and it wasn't fostered the right way. But also I want to challenge you to let go of that, though. There's a certain amount of time that we don't have control over, or not as much, or we're just not mature enough to grab hold of our lives and make it what we want it to be. But there is a threshold you cross where you are. And so if you're not a little child, then you are at a place now where stop holding on to the past. Stop holding on that you weren't fostered as the flower you're supposed to be. Stop, I didn't have the things and blah, blah, blah. Now you know. Now you know. This quote has showed you. Now you know. Take control. Make the changes. Curtail your own soil. Put yourself in better environments. Give yourself better mentors. Find them. If you need help, feel free to reach out to me. With the internet today, it is all too easy to find the right place, to find other flowers like you, to give you motivation and help inspire you, and to connect you with the right networks so that you have a community despite wherever you may be, so that you aren't alone and that you know how to nurture yourself. And again, if you don't know what kind of flower you are, it's the same thing even with leaders. If you don't know what you're working with, you just got to try things. You just got to know what I'm doing right now is not working. So what can I change piece by piece? And then something will start to work and you'll notice growth. And then you stay there and you keep doing that. So I hope that this was thought-provoking, and I hope it could be helpful to those of you out there who are leaders, who are mentors, and to all my amazing flowers out there. I know I have both groups listening. I just want you guys to grow. I want you to thrive. I want you to bring others along that journey as well. We need you. We need exactly who you are. We need those crazy dreams inside you. We need all of those aspects of who you are. It's beautiful. So again, like always, if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with somebody who you think could use it. Please leave a 5-star review if you feel so inclined. That's always helpful. And I hope you guys are having a great rest of your week, and I will check y'all next week.